Welcome back to Digging Deep, the podcast where we offer bereavement bites for time-pressed professionals and where we explore the trends, challenges, and stories shaping the future of the death care profession in Canada. I'm your host, Heather Kiteley, President and CEO of GFD and proud second-generational funeral director. Today we're recording live from the Alberta Funeral Service Association AGM and conference in the beautiful Edmonton, Alberta. It's an incredible gathering of professionals committed to elevating the standards of care that they provide to families every day. In this episode, we are sitting down with someone who wears many hats. We are meeting today with David Root, General Manager of a respected funeral home here in Alberta, and the current president of the Alberta Funeral Service Association, teacher at Mount Royal College, generational involvement in the Calgary Stampede, involved in his daughter's school, and amazing that you've made some time for us today. So thank you so much for being here. Today we're going to be pulling back the curtain to get to know the person behind the leadership title, the person behind the persona that is making all sorts of wonderful things happen for not just the community of professionals, death care professionals here in Alberta, but also in your community and in your school and in your family. So we're going to be peeling back the curtain a little bit to get to know David. And we're going to learn what first drew him into this profession. Before we jump in, if you are enjoying the Digging Deep podcast, please make sure to follow, leave us a comment, and most importantly, please share this episode with someone in your life who might find it valuable. Your support helps us to bring these important conversations to the forefront and to keep those conversations going. So joining me today, formally, we have David Root. Welcome, David.
Thank you.
David is the General Manager at Pierson's Funeral Service and the President, of course, of the Alberta Funeral Service Association and grandson of the founders of Pierson's Funeral Service, Chess and Joan Pierson. Did I pronounce that correctly?
You did, other than it's spelled Joan, but my grandmother was Joanne.
Oh, was she?
She was, yeah.
Aw, I feel like Joanne is nice.
It is.
I mean, no offense to the Joans out there.
Yes, yes.
That's wonderful. And, you know, that generational experience, you know, unless you've lived it, it's really hard to explain.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like a whole
Very
thing
true.
in itself, right? And so David was exposed to the family business from an early age and is proud to continue the family business into another generation. David graduated from Lester B. Pierson High School and then served a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Southern California. Important work. Upon returning from his mission, he attended Mount Royal University. In 2005, he married his wife, Marisol. Got that one right?
Yep.
Good. And you have 4 children.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so how many girls, how many boys?
3 daughters and then 1 son.
Wonderful. Is your son the youngest?
He is, yeah.
Yeah,
Which
so
ironically is the exact same for me. So I have 3 older sisters and then
Is
me.
that right?
So same with my kids. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're spoiling him as you were spoiled.
Yes, yes.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
We have so many things to say about you here. So although David's first intentions in school were in another direction, he joined the family business and quickly recognized his love for funeral service and changed programs, graduating with a General Arts and Science certificate, as well as a funeral director and embalmer extension certificate. David is still actively involved with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and David's official work with Pierson started in 2005. He currently serves as General Manager, as well as licensed funeral director and embalmer. Again, many hats in the funeral home, right?
Yep.
David's love for the profession led him to return to Mount Royal University as an instructor for the funeral services program. So welcome, David.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Goodness, you are busy.
I am, yes.
That's amazing. Okay, so this episode, of course, is all about learning about you.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with what inspired you. Okay, and let me back up a little bit here.
Mm-hmm.
So this question, what inspired you to become a funeral director, is a question that I get all the time as a second generation funeral director. The easy answer is, well, you know, my dad was a funeral director, and so I became a funeral director. So I'm not going to let you get away with that, okay?
Yeah.
Because it's not that simple, is it, right?
No, not at all.
Are you like me? Like I was like, no way am I having anything to do with it.
100%.
You were
I was,
too, right?
yeah, 100%.
Okay,
Yeah.
so tell me that story. How did all that change for you?
So my grandparents started our funeral home with one of my uncles, and it was actually the year I was born. So they opened, and I was born. This is over 40 years ago, and so the funeral home's always existed and always been around. But my mom is the connection to the Pierson family, so that's why I'm not a Pierson by name, but definitely Pierson. And so I grew up around the business. My dad was a police officer, and my mom ran the flower shop. So one of our businesses is not the funeral home, but just flower shop. And so although my mom's not a funeral professional, she's still an owner in the business and very much involved in it. So a little bit different for my kind of exposure to the business than some generational funeral directors as well. So growing up around it and seeing it, it just really didn't have much of an interest in it. I always joked when I was younger, speaking of when I got married, I used to joke at home because my mom worked in a funeral home and my dad was a police officer. If anybody I brought home could ever survive a dinner conversation, because we talked about some crazy stuff, they were good. You know, they could fit.
That was
but anyway.
The same. It's so funny. It was the same in our family, right? My mom's an intensive care intensive care nurse. My dad's a funeral director.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and there's crazy stories that happen, and you talk about it,
That's
and
the
it's
part.
just normal.
And like you don't know that it's weird until you start like going to friends' houses and having dinner, and you're like, oh, why aren't you talking about it? Anyway, go ahead.
Yes, and they get uncomfortable when you bring it up as well. Yeah,
and you're just like, isn't this normal?
Yeah, definitely. So after graduating from high school, I served my mission in California and came home from my mission, and I started in school right away. My dad, so my passion as a kid was actually to be a police officer, like my father.
Yeah.
My father, for whatever reason, just was not a proponent of me becoming a police officer. Not sure why. I think
I can imagine why.
he saw policing changing and kind of thought, you know what, I'd rather you not have a future in that. And that's okay. So I always joke, I came home from my mission in December the 22nd, actually. And on the 4th of January, I started school because he had registered me in school.
Oh, really?
And was very specific. I was in all of the pre-pharmacy courses. And so I love chemistry, love math. You know, I don't remember ever having a conversation with him saying that's what I wanted to do, but that's what he had me registered in. And he had the roadmap set out for me. I was super impressed. But anyway, so I started school, something that I loved, and I enjoyed the education and I enjoyed the aspect in the road that I was headed in. But I got home in December of 2024 and I married my wife in 2025. So very short time.
A lot going on.
So adulting had to start happening in a different way. And so while going to school, I needed to work. And a couple days a week, I did not have classes. And so I approached my uncle, Michael, who's our current president at the company. And I just said, I'd love to come and spend a couple of days here. Could you use me? And he was like, definitely, come on in and start working. And up until that point, any work that I did in the funeral home was like cutting lawns, washing cars. Like it wasn't actual funeral work. And so it was kind of unfair for me to say I didn't want to get involved, is probably the way that I think of it now. So when I started that work, even though I was in school,
it's like, give me a job, but I don't want to be involved.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, like I'm just filling a need. But I never actually got that feel of what working in funeral service was like. Right. And so that was the first real exposure that I had to working with families, working services, and doing all of those parts of the job. And it didn't take me long. It was only a few months later that it was like, you know what, this is a fit for me. I think I'm a fit for it. And it just suited my intellectual thinking and everything that goes with it. I like to refer to it as it's in my blood. It was just there, and it just felt so good.
It's funny, right? 100%. It just feels normal.
Yeah. So after some long conversations with my wife, who to this day still says that I fooled her into marrying me because I was going to be a pharmacist, sell drugs, makes lots of money. And now I'm in funeral service. So very different. But anyway, so I decided very quickly I needed to change my direction, and already a student at Mount Royal, just kind of changed the courses I wanted to take, took the program, and really haven't looked back. That's been my passion and my love ever since.
Yeah. Your passion for funeral service comes through not just, in your evidence of the leadership that you're providing, across all of these different communities, and specifically in the death care sector, but also in your manner, right? Mm-hmm. And we had talked a little bit before we started about some of your passions. So talk to me about the thing that you're most passionate about in the death care sector. What is it that gets you up in the morning and gets you excited about making change?
So my passion in funeral service, or what I think makes a difference, is kind of two-part. It's kind of what I get from it, but then also what I think it does for people, and they're tied together, loosely, very closely linked. And so I think what I get from it and what brings me to funeral service every day is being able to see the difference that what I do makes in the lives of those that are experiencing, in some cases, the worst thing they've ever experienced in their life. And being able to take that very terrible experience and make it as easy as possible to get through all the things that they have to do.
Yeah.
You know, they have to deal with what's going on, and being one of the people that's able to guide them through that and make that process easier and do it from a compassionate place where they can feel that unique, you know, care and concern, and not just, you know, walking through the motions. There's a lot of value in that, and being able to kind of feel like I've become an integral part of their family and in their situation and their loss and their grief, and being able to kind of walk them through that. And so for me, that's what gets me out of bed every day and makes me want to come to work.
So I want to just pause for a minute. For those folks who might be listening, if there's anyone who's listening to the podcast who doesn't know anything about the death care sector and isn't sure what they want to do with their life, let's just reflect on what you said. In funeral service, in the death care sector, you can make a meaningful, concrete difference that you can see and others can feel. What other job can you do that in, right? Like, if you think about, you know, if you're unsure about what you want to do with your life and you want to make a difference in people's lives, there is no better place where you can actually see, you know, the tangible effect that you're having on people. And I just want to make sure that we stop and like just think about that for a moment and reflect on how important that is, right?
Well, it's that uniqueness of, you know, I think of the other places that you might have these similar experiences. I would say medical professionals, very much, you know, helping people through, you know, nursing, any of thing that comes in that world. But there's a difference with funeral service, because
talk to me about that.
On the other, in a lot of the other aspects, there's more generally. But in funeral service, 100% of the time, there isn't. That person has passed.
Yeah.
And, you know, when people go to the hospital, they often are released. There's often healing.
Yes.
There's often more.
Yeah.
But in funeral service, we're helping them with the bookend, like the absolute end. And we're helping them recognize an entire existence, not just a certain circumstance. And so I think there's
it's like their whole. I think what I'm hearing you say is that it is an intimacy that is beyond just that moment of, you know, whatever medical crisis you might be having, that you're, you know someone as a nurse, you might know someone through that individual experience. But in funeral service, what I'm hearing you're saying is that it is that requirement to intimately understand and help people through the entirety of an entire life.
Well, and, you know, the individual that you're working with, the surviving family, you know, that they're experiencing much the similar to, you know, like a health crisis or something like that.
Yes.
But it's linked to someone that's important to them, someone they loved, someone that they cared about, someone that cared about them, and the fact that that is gone. And, you know, there's a whole lot of values and cultures and religions and traditions and a lot of beliefs that then can be healing and helpful, but it's different for every family. And being able to find what uniquely is going to help and support them and just guide them through all of those steps is just, it's a phenomenal thing. And why I think it's so unique to funeral service. Definitely linked in many ways to others, but very unique and very special in my mind as well.
Amazing, yeah, so true. Now you said you had two passions. That
Sure.
was one.
So kind of, and they're linked close together, but it's what I get is where I started. For me, it's what families get. And I've always thought this, I've always believed it, I've always understood it for the nearly 20 years I've been in funeral service, but I uniquely experienced it from the other side when my dad passed, and this was just a year and a half ago. And I've always been a big proponent of helping families understand that they need to do something. They need to honor a life. They need to do something because that event happened, that life happened, that person is now passed away, and we need to do something. And what that something is can be very unique, it can be very different, it can be very traditional, it doesn't matter, but something needs to be done. And I've always observed families and how all the things that we do in funeral service, you know, giving them an opportunity to say their goodbyes, final viewings, you know, farewell ceremonies, whatever that is, any type of, you know, viewings, visitations, any type of services or gatherings or ceremonies, you know, whether it be cremation or burial or whatever, doesn't matter, any of those things. but being able to observe families' experience and watch them being better having gone through them, it's always been a passion for me to help families understand that that's what we're trying to do and accomplish. And as I mentioned a year and a half ago with my dad's passing, although I've had deaths in my family, my dad's the closest that I've had. I've lost all 4 of my grandparents. I've lost aunts. I've lost lots, but my dad is the closest relationship. And being able to literally think back and see how in each of the events that we did, how I had healing that I don't think I would have gotten had I not done those. And I am healed and better, and I got through grief because I did those things.
So even though you know this intellectually going in, right? You still found yourself surprised. Did you find yourself surprised that you were like, oh, like one of the things that we hear about a lot, at least I used to hear a lot, is folks who would have a visiting period, who maybe weren't, I'm going to have it, I'm not really sure, whatever, who after they have that visiting period say, oh my gosh, I learned more about my dad or my mom or whomever in that 3-hour period than I ever could have imagined. I'm so grateful that I did that. So we know this intellectually going in. My dad died last spring. I found the same thing, right? Like people, I thought I had a good handle on what my dad's involvement or impact was in a community. I had no idea, right? Until you actually see those people coming in. So intellectually, you knew this, but you still found yourself surprised. So what were the pieces of that you found yourself recognizing, oh, I forget the words that you used, was it growth and development, or that you had an impact in that ceremony?
Well, I think, and it's funny, you're using the word surprise and not wrong, but I don't know that I feel it was a surprise.
Okay.
I think it was almost like an aha moment, so what I've believed and what I've thought and what I've observed is true.
So more like validation than
surprise.
Okay.
That's probably,
okay,
for me it was more that
gotcha.
validation. I've always believed it. I've always felt that there was benefit in each of the things that we do.
Yeah.
And, but to actually think back and go, wow, that was what a meaningful difference that made for me in my healing. And not just me being able to talk to my siblings and my kids and just how they too kind of gained from that for them as well. So I think that validation is probably the best way for me to kind of frame that. So being able to understand that, and that kind of links or takes me one step further. My apologies. But
no, go for it. That's what we're here for.
I think that, I have struggled in funeral service. I love funeral service. My struggle in funeral service is that I'm struggling with our society in North America and how I've just talked to you about all these amazing things that I've observed and experienced in my own life and seen in hundreds of families over the years. But yet there's so many people in our society that see all of that as antiquated, not valuable, not helpful, just something that they don't want anything to do with. And so I guess my passion is 3. And just how I've struggled with that, and my passion is to try and help, in my brain, I think regularly, how can I help educate people and understand that when they are doing what they can to avoid it, for whatever reason, that they're actually doing themselves a disservice. They're actually preventing themselves from grieving, and those that also want to grieve with them and around them, know. And it sounded like same with your father's funeral. I knew my dad had great influence. He was very involved in a lot of different things, but as we welcomed and spoke to the hundreds of people that came to his funeral, and many of them I did know, but many I didn't. And just to know, how unique of an experience each of them had with him and the difference that it made, and how you could physically see them healing in that moment. And when we don't do something, and again, I keep using that word something, but when we don't do something, we're robbing ourselves of that, but we're robbing all these other people of that experience as well. And yes, it's not about them, but it is as well.
It's about community,
we forget.
right?
Exactly, it's community. We care about all of them.
You have hit on something that I don't think we talk about enough. Because we focus in funeral service on family, right? That's going to be better for family. But taking in that broader community is, and so, I used to have conversations with families about this, and it requires courage to have these kinds of conversations to say that, what about the impact of your mom or your dad on the broader community, and how important that was in terms of their life and their contribution to their community, and how because truthfully, for those of us who do this all the time, and we're going to keep it real. So I'm going to be pretty plain spoken. We have, I think, an obligation to talk to people about this stuff, because if you don't have anything, right? Some of the challenges that can come with that is then you start having those moments in the grocery store, right? You have those moments in the most awkward places you can possibly have them. And so, you have a celebration or a funeral of some kind gives everyone that opportunity to express themselves, to feel those feelings, to express their condolences, which is such a natural human need. If we don't have a place to do that, it's going to happen. And it's going to happen in weird places when you're most uncomfortable. And I think that in the moment, people are just thinking about, all of this hurts so much. How can I don't want to feel it, right? I don't want to. And I was like, when my dad died, I've been dreading my dad dying for a really long time, because he was such a pillar in the community, especially in the funeral community. And it's a crossing for myself of like public and private, and all of the crazy emotions that go along with that, and the real fear for me of like having people see the humanness of me in that rawness. It's a natural thing when someone dies, we just want to protect ourselves, and yet in that effort of protecting ourselves, we're really not, right? Yep. And I think that's kind of the essence of what you're talking about.
We often, life happens and we grow and we become better in the hard things, but we just naturally avoid them. And I have that same conversation you were just having with families on a regular basis, or we talk about it as professionals as well. If you don't do something, the thing that happens in the something, that ceremony, that funeral, that celebration, is going to happen at the grocery store. It's going to happen in all those places. Now, what I've had families say to me is, well, it's going to happen anyways. And you're right, it does. They're not wrong. It's going to happen, because there's going to be people that didn't make it to the funeral. I was at a meeting. It would have been just 2 weeks ago, and someone came up and said, I'm so sorry I couldn't have made it to your dad's funeral, and expressed their condolences. And I was grateful for that. But I think what makes the difference as to why it's easier in that scenario is because I've gone through it very publicly. I've gone through it very hard in mass with a lot of people, and I've experienced it, and it was painful, but it wasn't as painful as I thought it was going to be. And so now when I'm dealing with
that is such wisdom. Oh my goodness.
Now that I'm dealing with it in that setting that I wasn't ready accepting it, it's not as devastating. But if I haven't had those devastating moments, or those aha moments, or the revelations that it was good, or that healing, I think the healing is the word that I always prefer, is when you get to those, if you don't have that big aha or that big heal, now you're trying to have sections of that big heal in these very inconvenient, unexpected, odd locations and situations. And you're going to get through it, and you deal with it. But if we get through the hard stuff and do it in one way or another, whatever that looks like, as much as we can, it just makes it so much easier in those other settings.
So much wisdom there. This has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for joining us. This brings us to the end of our podcast. I feel like you and I could be talking for a while. And how wonderful for not just the sector in Alberta, but also for the people of Alberta and your community that you're here doing this wonderful work. So thank you so much for everything that you do.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, such a pleasure. I hope everyone today enjoyed our conversation with David. Certainly the personal stories, the passion that comes through from the work that you do, this is what drives leadership in our profession. And it is really our hope that today's conversation gives everyone listening a deeper appreciation of the dedication and the enthusiasm behind the service, right? If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to follow, leave us a comment, and share Digging Deep with a fellow professional or a family member or a friend who might be thinking about a career in funeral service, or thinking even just about what they might want to do. I think we touched on a lot of topics here. Your support helps us to continue bringing this important conversation to the community. Until next time, I'm Heather Kiteley. Keep digging deep, everybody.